Well, happy Monday, everyone, and thank God for you being here. And welcome to Break Time with Pastor V. I am Pastor V, and it has been a great weekend. We had a challenge over the weekend, and that challenge over the weekend was to deal with some difficult people in our lives. How did that go for you? Did you take up the challenge? Did you pray for a difficult person? Did you identify a need and meet that need for a difficult person in your life? That was a challenge this weekend. Don't forget, as you join in, say hello and let us know where you're listening from. Good to see you, Jen, Lucretia, Belinda. Thank you for joining in on Break Time with Pastor V. So I hope you did your assignment over the weekend, and that was deal with a difficult person. And if you have no difficult people in your life, God bless you. To those of you who say, you know what, I'm not doing it. I'm out. That's okay too for now. We'll see what God does. Just continue to pray, and because He really wants to show His glory in us and through us. So, but hey, I also want to give a shout out and a special thanks this weekend. Yesterday, well, we called it showing the world that our doors were closed, but the church was still open. We were able to feed at least 100 families as they came and got food from us right after our service time. So that was yesterday. And let's see, we have my wife Roz. Thank you to Sister Webb, Belinda, Sister Golden, Nina. I hope I don't forget anybody. Brother Ken, Cheryl, Eric, Jennifer, Jessica, Kerwin, Art, and Kelsey. Thank you all. I really, really appreciate you. You know, we're a small church, but God has blessed us to be able to make a huge contribution and make a difference in the community. And so today I want to just share a few things with you. I was kind of going through some old notes, and I came upon something in Acts chapter 27 that reminded me of today. And in Acts 27, Paul, who had been in prison, he had been beaten in Jerusalem. They tried to let him go free. He says, no, you beat me. I'm a Roman citizen. I should have had a trial first. So he demands to go and have an audience with Caesar. But to get there, he has to go by boat or by ship. And he goes by ship, and some things begin to happen. As they set sail, Paul says, hey, you know what? We really shouldn't go any further. We should stay here for the winter. And the people on the ship, the captain says, no, we're getting ready to go. And so they set sail, and they get this huge storm. And it reminded me of where we are today, because this storm came out of nowhere. It's a very, very rare storm. Hey, Brother Daryl, it's a rare storm. And have you ever been in a storm? Maybe you are right now. This whole COVID thing, it's frustrating. It's where we've never been before. But I noticed some people who were in this storm as they were on the ship. We had prisoners. Paul was considered a prisoner. We had soldiers who were just there doing their job, and we had the crew of the ship who were just the crew. They were just sailing. They were making sure things happen. But the storm comes out of nowhere, much like life today. And so when the storm comes out of nowhere, it's not a normal storm. It's one of the worst types of storms that you could ever face. And then they spend about somewhere between 14 and 20 days in total blackness. Just the storm going. There's no sun that's able to shine. They can't tell night from day. And they stay there so long that they give up hope. Damn, what a bad place to be. Have you ever been in a situation in life? It just looks hopeless. Everything about you seems hopeless. It's not a fun place to be. But then the word comes to Paul, and Paul gives them hope. Why? Because Paul is a man with a divine appointment. God says to Paul, you're going to go see Caesar. Let the people know they're going to be okay, but they're going to lose the ship. Wow. Check this out. Many times we go through storms, and God is working His will in us, and we'll get through the storm, but when we arrive on the other side, it will have cost us the things that we don't really need in life. Let that one sink in. So they were going to get there. They were going to get to the other side, but Paul says, hey, you're going to lose the ship. Now, as a prisoner, you say, hey, okay, maybe I deserve this storm, going through it. But if you were just someone who was on the ship, who worked for it, you had no idea. You didn't deserve this. maybe you don't deserve the storm we're in right now. No, every time you're in a storm, it's not because you screwed up. Now, here's another thing. The primary reason that they were in the storm, because the leadership didn't listen. The captain of the ship didn't take the advice from whom he considered a prisoner, meaning Paul. Sometimes, and when we're leaders, we need to know this, that our inability to take advice or some of our decision-making skills will affect everyone in the downline and can put everyone at risk. Kind of sounds familiar? Kind of much like our leadership today, isn't it? Storm comes out of nowhere, but our leadership decides to keep going. That's a whole nother issue. But so they do this, and eventually, so they try, and then they try everything that they can. They throw all their cargo overboard. They throw the ship's tackle overboard. They're in this hopeless situation. They stop eating. They get a word from Paul, says, "Hey, you go ahead and eat. We're gonna be okay, but we won't have the ship, but we're all gonna make it. We're all gonna survive." And so finally, the ship, they become shipwrecked as the ship hits a sand barge and it runs aground, and the ship is broken up into pieces. Now, the job of the soldier, this is very important. I just noticed this morning. The job of the soldier is to make sure that the prisoner arrives, or that they don't escape. So when they're on this, when the ship becomes shipwrecked, the prisoners want to kill. The soldiers. The job of the soldiers is to make sure the prisoners don't escape. So the soldiers decide they want to kill the prisoners. Now, you're going to have haters who can't see what God is doing for you in the middle of the storm. They don't want you to make it because they aren't going to make it for whatever the reason. But know that haters hate because haters are haters. They're just doing their job. They're just like the soldiers. The soldiers were just doing their job and trying to survive, because if the prisoners had escaped, then the soldiers would have been put to death. So, but they were just doing their jobs. But here's what we've got to remember, that when we are in a storm, it's not because we've always screwed up. Sometimes it's just where God has us and he's teaching us some things. But even when haters hate, that remember, there's no weapon that's formed against you shall prosper, that what God has for you, the world can't stop it, that God uses every situation. And so those were those soldiers. And then there were some runners in the thing. How many of us try to run to escape when there's a chance? Hey, it calmed down for a while. They were in this storm. There's nothing like they'd ever had. And the first thing they wanted to do, some of the soldiers, was to jump ship. And the word says that what they tried to do was take the lifeguards and act as if they were anchoring, but they were letting the lifeboats down so that they could escape. And Paul says, no, you can't do that. If you try to escape, you are not going to make it. You got to stay here in order to make it to the destination. Sometimes, y'all, we've got to ride the storm out, because that's what God is doing. There used to be this old song, "Lord, don't move the mountain, just give me the strength to climb. Please don't take away my stumbling block. Just lead me all around." But that's the reality. Is sometimes, y'all, we're just going to go through. But here's our confidence. Our confidence is in the faithfulness of the God that we serve, and that he is going to get us through. So you're going to have haters sometimes on the storm. You may be the innocent one. You might be there because you deserve. You might have been the prisoner. But check this out. With the grace of God, even when you've done wrong, been there? Even when you've done wrong, God will use what you've done to draw you closer to him. And finally, so the ship is shipwrecked. They try to get out. Paul says no. And then there comes the opportunity for them to leave. And watch this. Sometimes you'll arrive at the end of the storm, and there will be some people who either have had the skill set or developed the skill set to finish out the storm during the storm, or they've always had the skill set. And watch this. So they get there. Finally it's time to go, and some were able to swim. So the instructions are, those of you who can swim, go ahead and swim to the shore. They have the skill set. Sometimes you may be the person who has the skill set to finish up on the other side, but other times you don't have the skill set. Can you imagine being there? The storm has ended, the ship is broken into pieces, and the instructions are those of you who can swim, go ahead and swim, and you can't swim. Oh my goodness. Now what? Sometimes you arrive and you're just so broken, and then only thing that are left are the pieces, the planks of the storm, the planks of the ship, the pieces of the ship. And guess what God does? The instructions were, hey, grab the pieces, grab the planks, and swim to shore. Sometimes even though you're broken and battered through the storm and all you have are pieces of you and that shatteredness, here's what I want you to know, that the pieces are enough. The planks are enough. So some swam, others, all they had were the pieces and the planks, and they swam to shore, drifting on the pieces. So gather your pieces and know that God never wastes a storm, that he's working this whole thing out in your behalf. So if the broken pieces of life are all you have, know to gather your pieces and that God still has you and that he's working his work through you through this storm. It may be the worst one you've ever seen, but God is teaching you. You may not be able to escape, but God's got you. You may get to where it's time to get off the ship or the pieces of the ship and you can't swim. Don't worry about it. God has you, even with the pieces. So God bless you. Thank you for spending break time with Pastor V. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 1 p.m. And that's it for the day, y'all. Have a great one. Blessings.